So as I said, our next panel explores how the youth of the kingdom are shaping product, purpose, and platforms. Please let me introduce Mohammed El Harani, COO of Barnes, Mohammed Koja, the founder and designer of Hindam, Noah Kayat, co-founder and CEO of Nippon Seiko, Ahmad Weiss, the commercial director of Spacetoon, Mansur Al-Akil, CEO of Toys R Us, Azora Ait El Jamar, the head of Cinema Art Jamil, and Orlando Beekbane, Principal Customer Services Manager at Braze. And your moderator, I'm hoping they're all here for this session, is Hassan Tamimi, the CEO of The Little Things. Ladies and gentlemen, your panel, your moderator, please be here. Here they are.
Good evening, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's panel discussion. The discussion that we have today is the wave of youth, and it's a very interesting discussion because we're talking about Gen Zs, Gen Alphas, leadership, and how it affects our businesses today. I think it's something that we can really learn a lot from, and the panelists that I have with me today are great. I've heard their stories. It's really intriguing, and I think there's a lot to learn from them. Before we get into the panel, let's go around with introductions. I'll start with Ahmed.
Ahmed Weiss from Spacetoon.
Mohammed Al-Kharani from Barnes.
Hi, I'm Orlando Beekbane, and I'm from Braze, which is a marketing automation and AI decisioning platform.
Assalamu alaikum. Mansour Al-Agil from Toys R Us.
Mohammed Khoja, so I'm a fashion designer, but I'm also a multidisciplinary artist.
Hello everyone, my name is Zohra Ait El Jamar. I'm the head of cinema at Art Jamil, the first independent art house cinema that opened in Saudi Arabia.
My name is Noah Kayat. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Nippon Seiko, which is the first Saudi brand dedicated to Japanese anime goods.
Great. And before we go into the questions that I have for them today, just to get to know them a bit more and to get to know their businesses, Noah, maybe you can tell us a little more about what you do.
So my brand is called Nippon Seiko. We've been operating for like 15 years so far. We are focused on authentic and licensed Japanese and anime goods. And we also bring in some rare collector's items for old-fashioned anime, for a bit of nostalgia. And yeah, that's it for our brand.
Great. Mansour, also from Toys R Us, if you can tell us a little about Toys R Us. I think the name defines itself, but if you want to...
Yes, so next November, we will be celebrating 30 years in Saudi. So a lot of memories, a lot of generations grew through those 30 years. So we hope that for the next 30 years, we can also find a way to engage the new generations and make more playful moments.
Great. Mohammed?
Yes, I think we're in the same age of Mansour brand, 30 years as well. So we are Barnes, definitely you know that we are the coffee brand leader in Saudi Arabia. And now we are moving for the global expansion in international markets, leading the business behind the operations, marketing, and international franchise expansion.
Great. Zahra?
So Hi Cinema opened in December 2022 with the vision to kind of fill the gap of all those commercial cinemas that were opening in Saudi Arabia and make sure we had that space to offer an educational and cultural kind of cinema experience. So we're based in Jeddah in Hay Jamil's creative complex, which gives us this opportunity to kind of have this cross approach into cinema experience.
Great. So Mohammed, you want to go through
What was your question?
Just a quick introduction to your business.
Oh, well, there's a lot to say, but I'll try to keep it short. So Hindam obviously is very much centered around storytelling from the perspective of a Saudi creative mind own. So that's really the DNA of the brand, is being able to reflect through the fashion medium elements of culture from Saudi Arabia, which is very interesting to both Saudis and globally alike. But I do way more than that. I work with different clients. I recently creative directed a line for Saudi Airlines, commercial ready-to-wear line. So I'm very much within that creative space, and inshallah, much more to come.
Great. Ronaldo, sorry.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, Braze is the leading customer engagement and AI decisioning platform. So it's orchestrating journeys across, say, mobile push notifications, email marketing, WhatsApp, in-product experiences. Here in the Kingdom, we're working with brands such as The Chefs, movie cinemas. I've been working with Majid Al Futtaim, based in Dubai now for the last 5 years, across their entire portfolio of malls, cinemas. We also work with movie cinemas here as well in the Kingdom. So.
Great. And Ahmed?
So we are Spacetoon, which is one of the biggest kids and media, kids and family entertainment TV channel and media platforms. And we have a couple of partnerships in retail, manufacturing, and product design. So.
Great. My name is Hassan Tamimi. I am the CEO of The Little Things, and we're in partnership with Ahmed and Spacetoon here in Saudi Arabia. And of course, I'll be your moderator for the day. Jumping into Gen Zs and the topic about leadership and Gen Zs, it's a conversation that I've been having earlier today with a few of the panelists, and it's a discussion that I believe has an open-ended, discussion that never ends. I was discussing with Mansoor today about it, and we were talking about, well, should Gen Zs be in a leadership position? And I think that was a conversation that was a very intriguing one. If you can just maybe touch point on it.
It was a very interesting conversation because when I joined the business, our CEO was 60 years old, and it was normal at that time to have a 60-year-old as CEO. And now I'm 40 years old, and some people might think that I'm old for the job. So it's very interesting to see in the span of 10 years how people believe that youth should get more leadership positions and should be the ones who call the ultimate decisions in companies. So I think it's a shift that we have to, be open about and embrace, and that the new generations are leading more and more companies across several industries. And also in the retail industry, we were talking about how key positions like marketing and other key functions, maybe the Gen Z should be leading those positions.
Today in the Gen Z world, fashion is something that is trending, and people don't just buy fashion for the sake of it. I mean, designer fashion is something that's growing day after day, and people look for stories. People look for value that they can see, not just things that something that they can mirror off who they are and how they feel. And I think Mohammed, you do a great job bringing that to life. Can you touch point on that? And
I think with Gen Z, I mean, I love Gen Z. I think they're fantastic. They just have a lot more awareness than the previous generation because of the connection that they have through social media, the commonalities that they see with other nationalities, which previously wasn't as transparent, I would say. But I mean, I agree and disagree to some extent about Gen Z. I think Gen Z obviously offer a perspective that is very, very interesting, and they're shaping the future. Obviously, they are the future. And then when it comes to fashion, I feel like they're looking for something that is a lot more meaningful to them, something that resonates with them. So I love that. I think that's very important, that we create fashion that they can, that can appeal to them and that they feel like it's something that represents who they are.
And how do you tell the story, or how is the storytelling mechanism that you use in your business to inspire and make the Gen Zs feel?
It's very much like any process a journalist or a writer would have, but just the medium that I chose is fashion. So with storytelling, it's just like about writing a narrative, and then it's a process. It's something that I've developed over the years, and it keeps improving. Learn from your mistakes and improve on your mistakes. But really, it is a process of very similar to what everybody else does, which is writing a script and then making sure that every single piece fits into the puzzle. And what are you trying to say? What is the overall narrative that you're trying to convey? I think that's very important. And once you have that solid kind of structure behind a collection, I think it resonates even further beyond fashion. So.
Right. Shifting the focus from space, from fashion and toys into TV and marketing behind Gen Zs. I mean, I think Spacetoon has shaped millions of kids' childhood into who we are today. I mean, given the memorabilia that's around famous titles like Grandizer, Captain Shubasa, Captain Majid, and many other IPs, we deal in a generation where the attention span is very short. And I think traditional TV might not work anymore. How did Spacetoon refine and retune the whole structure of adapting to Gen Zs?
So in terms of market overall, the media stays as it is, but the mediums change. So within the social media influencers and the growth that is happening, and what Muhammad was saying about Gen Z, that he loves Gen Z and Gen Alpha, sometimes I don't understand what they're saying overall. It's very difficult to understand what they're saying. However, yes, they are shaping the market. For us, what we did is we grew on social media. We signed a couple of partnerships. We signed an animation with the biggest influencer in Saudi, Mushayya, and we did 3 seasons. It did 2 billion views. The product is always out of stock. And now we're signing with other big chefs and celebrities, Abu Falla, Abir al-Saghir. We're trying to be closer to Gen Z. At the same time, we're playing with the nostalgia. So nostalgia now is a big thing, and you can see it now in our store where a nostalgic product is selling way more than original product. Like Pop Mart, for example, all of their top-selling IPs and product is based on nostalgic brands, same as Care Bears or Powerpuff Girls and all of these collaborations that they're doing. For us, I think what Gen Z love is a story, a unique design, and a trend. But at the same time, you need to always be quick because the trend is always shifting. You can see the trend of Labubu. If Pop Mart wasn't so smart by introducing new brands, new IPs, new things, the trend of Labubu went down, and then they introduced Skull Panda, and they introduced a couple of new things and trends with the K-pop and everything. So you need to be quick, you need to be flexible, adaptable, and do not stick on your mind. And what Mr. Mansour said, that you need to have Gen Z in your team, I agree that 100%, but you cannot make them now a decision makers, yet they need a lot of learning in order for them to understand the entire ecosystem, specifically speaking about the toy industry.
Noha, when you look at Japanese culture, it's something that's growing year on year in the Saudi market, and I think it's something that touches a lot of Gen Zs, Gen Alphas, and the older generations as well. I know you lived in Japan, and you've took that experience from bringing it to Japan to Saudi. Can we touch a little about that and maybe share your thoughts on how you're doing it?
First of all, I have to credit Gen Z for something. Before, I used to have to explain what anime is and why it mattered. So thanks to them now, anime has become one of the well-respected, well-known form of entertainment. So this is one extra introduction step that I can just skip and dive into the topic. When it comes to Gen Z or Gen Alpha or even the old generation, what I found out is by living in Japan, there are a lot of similarities between the local culture, the Saudi culture, and the Japanese culture, like the high importance of tradition, the family, the strong sense of honor. So this is something that we try to emphasize on. So even though you would come and you would see different aesthetic, you would feel like you're in Japan, but when you come to our store, but there is something familiar, which is the values we share. So this is something we try to emphasize on, how we're very much alike, more than we are different. And I think this is something Gen Z is even focusing on because of how social media and other kind of social, like TikTok and social medias, everything is globalized. So people are looking for stuff that are similar between cultures. And I think this is an important topic to even if you're taking something from outside, whether it's a different culture or a product or whatever, you have to localize it in order for it to be consumed in Saudi Arabia. You have to put the Saudi touch in it.
Can you touch point on something that you've done maybe in localizing it?
For example, we have life-size characters in our stores. So if Eid al-Fitr comes or National Day, we dress them up in like shumagh or bisht or top, and it's really a hit with the Gen Z and with the, like taking a picture and hashtag grandizer with the shumagh. So even though we're bringing stuff from Japan, we always put the Saudi twist on it.
Great. With hashtags taking over the world and a generation where we're in such a fast-paced environment and things change within seconds. So just an example was the Labubu. It went to the #1 toy company in the world over a few months. Social media, huge impact, and with Ronaldo, I think with Braz, there's a ton that you've done in reshaping how social media is seen today and how marketing is seen as well.
Yeah, and I think it's always worth just coming back to, as brand owners, it's really understanding your consumers. I mean, I'm always going to come back to that point. But what we're seeing with the Gen Z is that in order to keep up with the trends, actually one of the few ways that you can physically do that, particularly with the increase in micro tribes that you're seeing within that, is actually leveraging AI in the same way that TikTok and Instagram are already doing, and the Gen Z are so comfortable with that interaction and that conversation. And I think one of the things, again, as business owners and thinking about it from like a retail perspective is how are we owning that technology ourselves as opposed to giving it away and allowing TikTok and Instagram to own that. And I think that's where something that Braze is trying to do in terms of with our AI decisioning capabilities, it's able to pick up on those trends very quickly, react to them in almost near real time, find those signals and ensure that the right creative, the right message is going to each individual, which is so important. I mean, it's one of those things, if you looked at the phones of 100 different Gen Zers, you'd probably see 100 different TikTok reels, right? Depending on what their interests were, depending on what the trends are at the same time. And I think that's where it comes back to actually really understanding the technology and thinking about your own technology stack and how that's going to change over time. And also having something that's going to be very responsive. 2 weeks ago, OpenAI announced the ability to buy through their new commerce apps. So we launched with Etsy on that. 2 weeks after the announcement, we already had the technology to both implement messaging through ChatGPT when you were shopping, and also collect the data back into the platform. And you've got to be in the position to take advantage of these very fast shifts in the landscape right now. So for anyone that hasn't already looked at that, I think that kind of deep diving into the new OpenAI capabilities to commerce is a must.
Okay, thank you. Taking OpenAI and how things are changing all the time, the cinema experience has been very traditional for the last few years. And I'm sure redefining that, adding a cultural side to things is impactful. Where do you see it heading towards the youth and the younger generations and the new Gen Alphas and Gen Zs, Zohra?
So for us, the Gen Z has really reshaped how we approach the branding engagement. And the way I see it heading Hey Cinema is to have an approach of co-creation rather than just offering a film, come and watch and thank you, bye. So basically, we engage into like a more engaging program where we offer workshops, competitions. One example, or a concrete example that I can give is we played with our own branding name, Hey Cinema. Hey in Arabic means neighborhood. So we created this competition called Kif Hayak, and inviting the youth to shoot their own neighborhood. So they became the kind of filmmakers of our own cinema. And then they come and showcase their own film at the cinema, and they feel like they belong to the space. So we create this sense of community space, and that creates like a long-lasting engagement and loyalty to us. And tapping into Gen Z, we tend to put them in one basket. I just wanted to touch base on those micro communities, such as Japanese field people, to cinephiles, to different aspects. And for instance, one event that we created last summer was tapping into International Cat Day, where we invited people to come with their cat to watch a film. And it was a sold-out screening in like 1 hour. So we kind of have this very creative approach to touch base into different communities. And that's how we kind of sustain, and we've been sustaining for the past 3 years.
Great. With youth having the comfort zone of a cafe to come and socialize and build interaction and build connections, Barnes plays a huge impact here in Saudi. I'm sure with all the branches. I'm not based here, so I don't visit as much, but I'm sure it's a destination for a lot of youth. And we were talking about it earlier, and you were saying that you do sessions where you bring in youths and understand their requirements and understand how you can make their cafe experience better. Maybe you can touch point on that.
I know that you're not in Saudi, but very soon you will see in UAE. You can experience our shop.
Excited.
So yeah, Gen Z for us in Barnes, it's something we experience every day, because when you have brand 3 decades in the business, mean that you are dealing with all generations. From X millennials along the way with Gen Z and Gen Alpha as well. The most challenge when it comes to hundreds of locations and millions of customers you are serving every year, that you have to maintain this momentum of keep the brand young, fresh, and well connected with the Gen Z. Every generation is bringing something value, Hassan, to the world. Like in my generation, for example, millennials, they bring the technology, So for us, the world was different before the technology. For Gen Z, the technology, there is no before. They grow up in this tech world, how it's faster, creative, and they are dealing with the offline and online as the same base. We recognize that in our business. When Gen Z come to our shops and they don't stay in the line, they want to pre-order. Even, Hassan, when you make a big campaign, they are not reading the ads. They follow the storyline, the trendy things. So they have a totally different behavior. In big scale like Barnes, we are follow the data, because data is telling us everything about our customer behavior. And what make me impressive about Barnes, not only the size, but it's the mindset of the company when they are dealing with the Gen Z as present customer, not a future customers. So all the decisions, it's based on the customer's opinion, if we talk about Gen Z here. And if I give quick example here, we made one of the most successful campaign in this year, 2025. It was based on tens of Gen Z came to our lab and they create the drink that they like it, and they made voting. And when we launched this, it was one of the successful campaign we made. So what I can say here, stay relevant, listen to the Gen Z, understand their behavior, you will keep young and you will keep aligned with their expectation.
Being in entertainment, Ahmed, and having a lot of different touch points with Gen Zs, Gen Alphas, and many elder generations as well. I'm sure I remember we were in Poppy Playtime a few weeks ago, and you watch the experience and you really want to hear their feedback and take that feedback into consideration. How do you take that experience and build newer and more immersive experiences in the entertainment industry?
So in terms of entertainment overall, just to give context to the audience, so we at Spacetoon, we're building all of the experiences inside Riyadh season and different venues in all the GCC in Saudi, Qatar, UAE, and Bahrain. So we're doing some toy festivals, we're doing experiences like Blippi experience or Five Nights at Freddy's horror experience. If you come to Boulevard, now we have Poppy Playtime, Playtopia with Disney, we have Minecraft, we have PUBG, and Conjuring horror experience. Answering your question, in regards to building experiences, it's all about the content and the trend. And to be honest with you, the most important thing that we build experience from is the online streamers. So when we want to do any experience, so let's say we want to do Poppy Playtime or Five Nights at Freddy's experience, the one thing that the creative team focused on is listening to the streamers when they're playing the game, what did they love, when the engagement was higher, when the comments was higher from the online streaming. So that was one of the main elements that brought us towards analyzing what I want to build on ground. The second thing is understanding the experience itself, and what do you want this short span of the audience wants. So we usually, when we used to go to any entertainment, we used to spend like an hour and a half, and we're playing only arcade. Where now the new generation, they want a very quick dopamine spike. That's why we're seeing, for example, escape room sales is going down and horror is coming up. Even though escape room, you stay for 40 minutes, where horror experience is only 3 minutes. Because the audience are looking for a very quick dopamine spike. And I agree with Mr. Mahmoud regarding their campaign with Barnes was very smart, is that maybe the drink wasn't very delicious that the Gen Z created, but it's the dopamine spike that the other people wanted to try. This spike is where all of us needs to be focusing on, which is very short span, but it's important.
Key takeaway, the spike. Going into Toys R Us and being in Saudi, a traditional market where it's evolving day after day, and it's interesting how it's evolving. How do you customize the experiences you create out of toys and different season? There's not so many seasons here in Saudi because we're focused on Eid, etc. But how do you customize that into different seasons and customize that experience in places that you can?
Yes. So the main change that we have seen from the different generations is that the difference between Gen Z and the previous generation is that Gen Z wants, the previous generation wants online. Gen Z wants both. They want online and experience at the same time. And this is what we feel that we need to deliver to them. So our physical stores are not anymore just point of sales. They have to be point of connect, point of discovery, point of experience. So that is the change that we're trying to build. Every new store that we will build will be based on that. It will not be based on a traditional point of sale. And at the same time, giving the customer the other option that he wants any time of the day, to have the online option as well. And I think the stores and the online, they serve very well in terms of the pickup points and etc. But talking about different seasons, of course, other than the Eid season, we have developed a zone dedicated to these experiences where you can actually dress up the zone depending on the occasion. These occasions can be as short as one day. It can be the cookies day of the year, where you bring a cookies company and kids come and bake cookies. So you have to really create such experiences in your retail space. And that will help you develop this space not into a traditional retailer, but also to a point where people can connect and share experiences and so on. So I totally agree that every industry has to find its way to really make their stores a point of connect.
Noha, we were talking about this earlier, where we were talking about leadership and Gen Zs and youth in leadership, and you mentioned that some positions can be youth and leaders, but then some it doesn't work, like HR. Why would you say that it's an equal split between who should be in power and versus who should not in
My question?
Gen Z? No, Noha.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So I think it depends on the skill set you need for that specific position. If you're talking about creative or connecting with the customer or connecting with an audience like marketing or sales, I would definitely say Gen Z is perfect for this kind of role. But if you're talking about a role where you need a bit of authority, there might be a little bit lacking in this area because they're still carefree and they don't want to have a strict hand, if you can say. So if you put them somewhere where they can create, they're very creative. But if you confine them within a role where they have to follow rules, that might not be their strongest position to put them in.
Taking that same question and handing it over to Muhammad, I know we talked about it as well. If you can touch point on that.
I think just in general, putting those walls up for Gen Z doesn't work. Like the things that we previously put up, like just the structure, the very rigid structure, we need to be a little bit more flexible with them. But we need them to take accountability. I think that's the key, is for them to own what they do, because we don't want to micromanage. None of us want to micromanage anybody. We hate doing that. But yeah, we just need to loosen up a bit with those structures and allow them to suggest things, and then have, create a discussion where, oh, okay, this may work, or no, this may not work. You need to go back to plan A. But having that rigid structure, like, you need to do this, and that's all it is, that doesn't work with them, because that's going to turn them off completely. So I feel like the issue that there's just a lack of miscommunication when it comes to accountability, and so they get turned off when they feel like they're being forced to do something. So that's my only comment.
Great. Zohra, you take Gen Zs, you have to also deal with the adult side of different generations, and you have the gap between, well, who do you put in leadership? Is it the Gen Zs that can cater the Gen Zs, or is it the kid adult maybe, or the adults that would take over? In the cinema industry, where do you see it heading? Is it the Gen
So
Zs?
sorry, I didn't really understand the question. Could you repeat it?
No, it was for Zohra.
Oh, sorry.
I think I kind of share the same thoughts when it comes to the creative field. I mean, Gen Z will know how to speak to their own peers, but given the cinema industry, that's a very old one and very structured one, you still need some sort of experience to kind of tackle the stakeholders, the business aspect, the financial aspect. So I think this comes with experience, but speaking of my own team, I think half of it is Gen Z, and I see it as a win-win kind of situation where we co-create, we exchange ideas, and what you were saying about being open and flexible, and then we try, we experience, maybe it works, it doesn't. I mean, we have that free space, and I think that's what makes Hay Cinema.
Especially within the creative space.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. And with Braz, when you see the trends of things moving towards a more funny, short, the dopamine spam that Ahmed was talking about, how do you guys adapt your business and cater your customers to that requirement today? Yes.
Yeah, I think there was something mentioned about having a creative team involved, and that really resonated with me, because I think one of the things we can't leave out of this is actually the power of human creative teams. Yes, I think AI can inform a lot of strategy behind that, but actually some of the best ideas we've seen in terms of campaign executions have come from creative teams that have then been able to adapt ideas into new markets. And I also think it's somewhere where brands can lead the way. I think that's kind of where you see very authentic connection. I was reading about something that was happened this year in Riyadh with Jimmy Choo and one of the very famous matcha restaurants, matcha bars. And it just shows an understanding of the market and saying, okay, we're going to lead the way here. We're actually just going to do something that we know is then going to lead to a trend. And that requires creativity, and it requires then teams to understand how to execute that through the technologies that are available. So I think there's still that part that's so important that then leads to those moments that we create as brands.
Great. Building on marketing campaigns targeted towards Gen Zs, and I think you touched point on it, Muhammad, with letting them create drinks and marketing that. Is there any other campaigns that you've done to really evolve around the Gen Zs and evolve around their niche of what they're looking at?
Yeah, usually you are starting with the personalization, because it's very important for this generation. You know that when they are expecting, you are dealing with everyone individually. This is something very harsh for the business, that you have to keep faster adapter all the time. And Barnes team, actually, especially the product management, marketing, and the operation as well, they are doing a great job to adapt the business to what the expectations of Gen Z. Let me give you another example of this. When we sponsorship the e-sport, the gaming, and we enter this world since 2 years back, and 2 years championship for Saudi brand, Falcon brand. We are doing this sponsorship to go to Gen Z, to where they are, where they live in. So this is something add value for us to understand what they are expecting from Barnes in the coming years. This all we put together on the marketing table to can shape and design our marketing strategy for the business. For Gen Z, it's always coming from the expectations. So if you can catch their expectations, it's easy for you to can tailor-made the campaigns for the business. And I invite everyone to focus on Barnes' strategy, because I can say that it's one of the good example in the market to can stay young, fresh, and still you have this big base of the customers. There's a big proof that all brands can stay strong and you can well connected with the customer audience that you are looking for.
Great. We have a few, 1 minute actually remaining. Just before we end, I just wanted to end with each one of you saying 1 or 2 words that would define Gen Z's youth in today's industry and how we see it moving forward. Just 2 words, and then why you pick those 2 words. I start with Ahmed, I think, putting you on the spot.
Loyal and trendy. So I think Gen Zs overall, they're very loyal consumers, and that's what we're seeing with who's with Jahiz, who's with Hunger Station, who's with, you know, like it's always unique on social media. At the same time, it's trendy. That's why we need to be quicker in order to adapt with them.
Mohammed?
Maybe my answer will be a little bit different, Ahmed, because always in Gen Z, the loyal and the risk. So because in our business, I'm talking definitely, I'm not talking about all the industries, but in coffee business, they are visit more frequent and they spend less. It means that you would like to find a brand they can emotionally link with. So it's keep that the business should be move fast, as Ahmed said, but we're always saying that the business can be stay live if you can adopt it to what is the Gen Z looking for.
Great, Arnaldo?
I think here in the region, a global brand that's doing a phenomenal job is KFC. I think they do some really exciting activations through digital channels, really speaking to particularly the gaming tribe here. So yeah, and in terms of like one word that I'd take away, it would be like conversational. It really has to be co-creation, and the Gen Z need to be involved in that conversation.
Mansoor?
Yes, being a brand that advocates for it, I really want to thank Gen Z for bringing play back. Because now, you know, play was underestimated in the previous generations. And thanks to Gen Z, today Saudi is building an entire city based on play. You would never see that in another generation, so I would like to thank them.
Love it. Mohammed?
I think just be a lot more open-minded and have a really good listening ear and be receptive to what they have to say. That's what I would say.
Great, Soher?
I would say authentic. I feel like Gen Z, you cannot fool them. They're well connected, well aware, and this comes with creative and engaged. I feel like the star system doesn't work anymore. They become their own influencer. They're not into like idolizing, you know, like a star system. So that's how I would summarize them.
Can't agree more, Noah?
I would say borderless and emotional. Borderless because you can no longer separate offline, online, your country, my country. And emotional because the way you connect with them is not by discounts and loyalty points, it's by experience and storytelling.
Great. That brings us to the end, but right before we close, is there any questions from the audience or anyone from the audience that has a question? Okay, great. Thank you so much to the fellow panelists, and thank you so much for listening in, and thank you.